Time magazine called him the unsung hero behind the internet. CNN called him a father of the internet. President Bill Clinton called him one of the great minds of the information age. He has been voted history's greatest scientist of African descent. He is Philip Emeagwali. He's coming to Trinidad and Tobago to launch the 2008 Kwame Ture lecture series on Sunday, June 8th at the JFK Auditorium, New St. Augustine, 5 p.m. The Emancipation Support Committee invites you to come and hear this inspirational mind address the theme, crossing new frontiers to conquer today's challenges. This lecture is one you cannot afford to miss. Admission is free, so be there on Sunday, June 8th, 5 p.m. at the JFK Auditorium, New St. Augustine.
My global network of processors is a small internet. That small copy of the internet is one of the keys to my experimental discovery of how and why parallel processing makes computers faster and makes supercomputers fastest, and my invention of how to use that new supercomputer knowledge to build a new supercomputer. The experimental discovery of massively parallel processing across a new internet is my contribution to the development of faster computers and the fastest supercomputer. I experimentally discovered how and why the millions of processors of a massively parallel supercomputer can be harnessed to cooperatively compute together and to compute as one seamless, cohesive unit, and to compute faster than any serial or any vector processing supercomputer. I experimentally discovered massively parallel processing, and I invented the technology through my proper naming of the processors within my internet. I visualize my internet as encircling a globe or a hyperglobe in hyperspace. That experimental discovery is my contribution to the development of the first internet that's the fastest supercomputer and that massively parallel processed across an ensemble of 65,536 processors. In the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, parallel processing was dismissed as a huge waste of everybody's time. In the most quoted scientific paper in supercomputing that was published in April 1967, Gene Amdahl, the supercomputer scientist of Amdahl's law fame, wrote that the maximum speed increase that could be achieved from harnessing an ensemble of 8 processors and using them to compute in parallel will always be less than a factor of 8. In November 1982, I gave a lecture at a conference for computational physicists and computational mathematicians. In that lecture, I presented my theoretical strategy for using 65,536 processors to make the impossible to compute possible to compute. In that lecture, in which I theorized on the most extreme scale computations and how I could achieve a speed increase of a factor of 64 binary thousand or 2 raised to power 16, and on how I could increase the speed of computations across a new internet that is a massively parallel supercomputer de facto, and that is powered by 64 binary thousand or 65,536 processors. Only one computational physicist attended my lecture on massively parallel processing on or on how to solve a million problems at once instead of solving one problem at a time. In the early 1980s and earlier, extreme-scale computational physicists declined the invitations to attend my lectures on parallel processing supercomputing. My experimental discovery was rejected in the early 1980s because extreme-scale computational physicists argued that massively parallel supercomputing will forever remain a huge waste of everybody's time. In the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, the highest minds in supercomputing caricatured parallel processing as a beautiful theory that lacked experimental confirmation. In those 3 decades prior to 1989, no supercomputer scientist knew how to parallel process 64 binary thousand codes of computational physics, with each code representing the algebraic reformulation of an initial boundary value problem of calculus. Prior to 1989, my research reports on massively parallel processing were read by 0 people, and I lived a life of complete anonymity. My experimental discovery that made the news headlines in 1989 was the new counterintuitive knowledge about the fastest supercomputers and of how to massively parallel process computational physics codes, and how to do so across a new internet that I visualized as a global network of processors that are equal distances afar and apart and on the surface of a globe in a 16-dimensional hyperspace.
Insightful and brilliant lecture.